Picking the wrong soil for your indoor houseplants is exactly why you're killing them. Here are 2 things you can do to make sure you're not going back to the plant store every week to replace the same dying plant. The first thing is to find a higher quality soil. Usually during the spring and summer at your local big box store or garden center, in their outdoor section, you'll see piles and piles of soil stacked on top of each other. To have your soil last longer, you're supposed to store it in a cool and dry place with relatively consistent temperatures. This soil is stored outdoors in the wind and rain through heat waves and cold fronts, and then it slowly becomes more and more susceptible to pests, which you then bring into your indoor collection. You'll be a bit safer buying something off the shelf, but you can let this outdoor soil stay for outdoor plants. I buy a higher quality soil. In Canada, I buy ProMix high porosity soil. It's extremely light, it has more uniform particles, and it also has other bioactive material that lead to a healthier soil biome. Fox Farm is another popular higher quality soil that's sold in the United States. Buying more expensive soil will give you better drainage, it has less of a chance of carrying pests, but it absolutely does not mean that it will make your plants grow faster. The truth is that this basic Miracle Grow might actually be the best for growing outdoor plants, despite the bad rap that it usually gets. Out of 14 different soil brands tested by Kevin and his team at Epic Gardening, Miracle Grow actually performed the best when growing peppers. So really, as long as your soil is stored properly, you're probably fine to buy it. Next is adding amendments to your soil. This is a plant fact sheet. Boring. It has every single piece of information you need to know about growing a plant, and this one is about philodendrons. But here's the important part. Plants should be grown in a well-drained potting medium with high water holding capacity. Most nurseries growing plants in greenhouses use pots up to 8-inch diameters filled with high-quality pre-blended mixes composed of over 50% Canadian peat and other clean amendments. Look at this generic potting soil. Canadian peat? That's the brown stuff. But I also see amendments in here, like this white stuff. This is perlite. But is this potting mix 50% perlite? No, it's absolutely not. An amendment is anything that can improve the quality of your soil, and perlite is an amendment that can increase your drainage and aeration. So if I want to increase my potting soil to 50% peat and 50% perlite, I would have to mix it together until it looked something like this. So now this would be a better choice for me to use as my main potting mix. Perlite is such an inexpensive amendment, I just had to upgrade to this XXL perlite, especially for some of my larger plants. Lee, how do I get this XXL dump truck size perlite, you ask? I will tell you, but you cannot act like a normal person and buy this stuff. No one will ship this bag of perlite to you, and you cannot buy it on Amazon unless you're going to pay $200 in shipping. Step 1, type in your closest city into Google Maps, followed by the words hydroponic store. Step 2, find a store, go to their website. Step 3, search for perlite. Step 4, find the absolute biggest bag of perlite that you can. The size that I use is grade 8 or size 8, followed by grade 4 or size 4. It's not about the size of the bag, it's about the size of the particles, and it will usually tell you how big they are in the description. Step 5, you realize that they will not ship this to you and you have to go to the store and pick it up. A lot of these stores don't even have websites, so yes, that does mean you'll have to pick up your phone and call them. Another common amendment that I like to use is orchid bark, and usually the ingredients are 100% fir bark. By mixing that into my soil, I can have better drainage and aeration. Orchid bark can be kind of expensive, so a good workaround for that is to go to a pet store and buy reptile bedding because the ingredients should be 100% fir bark. It won't be as nice or as uniform as orchid bark, but it's really worth the savings. You have your high quality soil with your amendments because the whole purpose of this is to have a plant that cycles through water relatively quickly. I have this plant, I want it to dry out in maybe a week or two, and then I'll water it again. Dense soil holds onto a lot of water, and dense soil like this might end up staying too wet for too long to the point where it starts to damage your roots. But with amendments like perlite and orchid bark creating better drainage and aeration, this plant is going to dry out a lot faster. But really, it all comes down to light. With more light, roots will suck up water from soil faster. But more specifically, it'll suck up water from that Canadian peat that we talked about in our plant fact sheet. But since this plant has so much peat-based soil, the big question is this: do these plants have enough light so that they can suck up all of the excess water and dry out within 2 weeks? To really show how important soil choice is, I've put these plants in a massive amount of light. Basically, direct indoor light at 6,000 FC from 8 a.m. to noon, and then between 300 and 500 foot candles from noon until sundown. With such high light and high temperatures, the roots should be able to cycle through water really quickly. The plant that was amended with perlite and orchid bark cycled through water in just under a week and is about 90% dry. Here's the reading from a moisture meter at level 2 in the dry zone. And here's my assessment from a bamboo skewer. Only the bottom inch of the stick still seems to be wet. With the plant that had dense potting soil with no amendments, visually it still looks pretty wet, and you can see the moisture buildup on the inside of the pot. Here's the reading from a moisture meter at around level 8, still wet. Here's my assessment from a bamboo skewer. About 4 to 5 inches of the stick still seem to be wet, which is essentially the entirety of the soil. My pot with amendments is getting watered today. It took exactly 6 days for it to get to 90% dry. 2 weeks into this experiment, and I would consider my plant with no amendments to be at around 60% dry. It's making good progress, but still not time for me to water it again. The moisture meter is reading at a level 4 or 5, still moist, and with using a wooden stick, it's clearly still very, very wet at the bottom, but it does seem to be drying out. I'm looking at not only how dark the soil is on the stick, but also how much of the soil sticks to the upper parts of the stick. You can leave your stick in for more time and you can twist it around to get a more accurate reading, but this really is just based on feel. As you learn more about soil amendments and how they can change how fast or slow your soil dries out, I encourage you to experiment with different mixes to see how they can actually suit your lifestyle. More soil amendments equals more frequent care, and more dense peat-based soil means less frequent care. I explain more in this video here, but as long as your plant is actually drying out, you can have a successful plant in pretty much any soil medium that you want, as long as you have enough light.